Well, Grinners, it's finally time. 3 years ago today, we went live for the show that ultimately would launch the Late Night Grin. That night, we covered the first dance, got super carried away for 3 hours or so, and said a whole bunch of things that have no doubt aged poorly. The following week, LNG officially premiered, and we've been grinning ever since. Not really, but yeah, close enough. Either way, we are delighted to announce that on August 27th, 3 years removed from that very first episode, we will be launching LNG Gold, our packed membership plan. Now, before we get into what's being offered with LNG Gold and all that comes with that, I want to stress the following 3 shows will be staying free and airing on the Late Night Grin channel as usual. That, of course, includes the flagship live every Friday night, as well as the monthly Grin Grappler, and of course, on a completely inconsistent and random schedule, when it happens, Hanging with Hulbert will remain free as usual on the Late Night Grin channel. In addition, I can't stress enough, this is not a move that's been made lightly. There's been a lot of planning that's gone into this, and once we get into what we're offering here, I think you guys will be able to see that. But it is important to stress, we understand not everyone's going to be interested in more LNG content. We very much understand that, and we appreciate the support nonetheless, and hopefully things are about getting to interest you. But if not, just keep grinning every Friday night, Grin Grappler, Hanging with Hulbert, so on and so forth. All right. Nonetheless, let's get into what we are offering with LNG Gold, and we'll start with the one show that will be moving to a LNG Gold exclusive, but for good reason. With that in mind, let's get into it. The first tier, for $1.99 each month, you'll have access to the Joe Hulbert Promotions tier. That tier will include 3 weekly solo shows, with one of those, of course, being the Hulbert House Show, a live Q&A stream that I'm sure many of you are familiar with, and it's shaped entirely by the live chat. In addition to that, we'll be opening and closing each week with some match reviews, 2 live shows, separate, Monday and Friday, the first of those being My Match Monday. This will be a chance for the Grinners to suggest matches that have happened in the last month or so, recent matches you'd like to see me review. A great opportunity to get me to cover stuff that I will otherwise avoid. And that'll be every Monday, a live show that's match reviews, just the same as Friday will be Fav Fight Friday, in which you'll pitch matches from yesteryear, favorite matches from back in the day, or maybe some infamous matches. Either way, the week will start and end with match review shows that you guys will be able to decide. And if you pitch a match as a member, I will get to it at some point, even if it takes me a little longer than anticipated. Less importantly, the JHP tier will also include a diary-style post at the end of each month. Now, look, I don't expect this to sway anyone, but as old patrons will recall, it's basically just some insight into kind of how things are going, and that'll be a little bonus for the JHP tier at $1.99. So, Hulbert House Show, My Match Monday, Fav Fight Friday, and of course, my very prestigious diary entries. Now, I mentioned the JHP tier that I'll be doing some retro reviews, and with that in mind, it would only make sense now that we look into our second tier as we go full Contrarian Alex with the used to be better tier. At $3.99, this will include the following monthly specials. Up first, I have a personal project that's a long time coming. I'm super, super excited for this as I go back a decade to cover NXT with the Full Sail Behind series. With a rotating guest each month, I'll be looking back a full decade at that block of TV. So, for example, as we kick off in September, I'll be going back to September 2014. And each month I'll cover that block of TV, including if there's a takeover special, whatever it may be, with a rotating second. And month by month, we'll chip away an era that if you're watching this, you're probably aware I'm pretty fond of. So very, very excited for that. Elsewhere, we have some Oracle of Wrestling vehicles, which I'm super thrilled about. Some things that were happening back in the day on the LNG Patreon that we're bringing back. One of which being Grindication, as Oracle and I sit down for a nice C show from back in the day when it used to be better. A couple hours of a Grinalong for wrestling that is entirely disposable, even more so than usual, and that will be a hell of a time. But in other news, when it comes to Oracle of Wrestling, we are also bringing back the short-lived but critically acclaimed School of Wrestling, as Oracle will talk myself, and hopefully you guys too, through a chapter of wrestling history. It could be a style, it could be a genre, it could be an era. We'll cover a bunch of different stuff. Each month it will be a special. So the Oracle of Wrestling will, of course, be explaining how it used to be better in great detail, as per usual. In the same vein, we'll also be giving you guys a handful of options each month in terms of a retro TV episode to watch and a retro pay-per-view. So we could end up doing something like Starrcade 89 and then a SmackDown from 2008. There'll be polls each month, but there will be a retro TV Grinalong, there will be a retro pay-per-view Grinalong, and I think if you're a fan of Manny the Hooper, you can expect some incredible results as we delve into these different parts of wrestling history. So that's something to look forward to. And maybe, just maybe, Alex and I will occasionally watch some shoot fights, perhaps some Pride Fighting Championships. Maybe, just maybe, we shall see. Okay, so there it is, $3.99. It used to be. You have the NXT show, Full Sail Behind. You have School of Wrestling. You have Grindication. You have a TV and pay-per-view Grinalong, which will be shaped by you guys. We'll give you a few options each month, but you'll be ultimately deciding which one we watch. But now it's time for the big one. $5.99. The Grinner Circle, the third and final tier as we return to the modern landscape for its heaviest hitters. Going live for Grinalongs covering both AEW and WWE pay-per-views. From a time zone point of view, this is obviously a pretty big commitment on my part, but I'm really excited for it, actually. I love the kind of community element we've built here, and I think it's a great way to increase that by going live for these pay-per-views, which can often be a real roller coaster of emotions. So I'm very hopeful we can enhance your experience of those, and I'm sure we'll have some great times watching the best and worst of AEW and WWE on pay-per-view. So that is in the Grinner Circle tier, as is at least one bonus TV Grinalong, live Grinalong, that is, whether it be an episode of Raw that looks enticing, Dynamite, NXT, Rampage, Collision, SmackDown, whichever it may be, you'll get at least one of those months, but likely more if the lineups kind of require that, right? We'll see how things turn out, but that's the hope, certainly. And at the very least, you'll get one. Finally, the icing on the cake when it comes to the Grinner Circle tier is that the confirmed shoot and I will be firing up TEW for our latest fantasy booking venture. What we book and how we book it is yet to be seen, but if you're familiar with our prior exploits in that domain, it's going to be a hell of a ride. And there'll be live sessions, so you guys will probably be involved in the process, no doubt. So, Grinner Circle tier, $5.99. AEW pay-per-view Grinalongs, WWE pay-per-view Grinalongs, a bonus TV Grinalong, at least one, and of course the confirmed shoot and I and our TEW shenanigans. Now, clearly, that's a hefty increase in shows for the Late Night Grin, but I can't stress enough, this is a step we take super seriously, so much so, in fact, that if by the end of this year, we can't maintain the pace, or I can't maintain the pace that I just laid out, then that's fine. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? This is a chance for us to see how we've grown from back in the Patreon days, how things have changed since the reboot, and hopefully enhance our enjoyment of pro wrestling, which obviously we all love. But I don't want to do LNG Gold in a fashion that drives us all nuts and makes us hate everything again. That's the least of my intention. So I hope the plan that I just laid out is enticing to you. It certainly is something that we fall by a bunch and kicked around a bunch. So the next few months, our intention is to swing for the fences and would love if you guys would come along for the ride. Remember, August 27th, LNG Gold launches, $1.99 Joe Hulbert Promotions, $3.99 It Used to Be Better, and $5.99 Grinner Circle. Speaking of such, we launch on the 27th, and our first show will be live for Grinner Circle members for a Bash in Berlin Grinalong. Gunter, Randy Orton, the rematch. We'll be there every stop of the way for our Grinner Circle members for the very first show under the LNG Gold banner. Remember, folks, August 27th we launch. Bash in Berlin, our first show. I appreciate your time, and as always, keep grinning. Thanks, folks.